What's going on, everybody? Lamont at large. Today we're in Hutchinson, Kansas. We're going to discuss the unsolved murder of Gayle Sorensen. This building across the street used to be the Evergreen Nursing Home, and 23-year-old Gayle Sorensen worked at this establishment. Now, we go back to February 11th, 1977. Now, the boss here tells Gayle, asked her if she could run a quick errand and deposit the rent money from the establishment. So they give Gayle a bank deposit bag. She jumps into her car, and they might have had her run a couple other errands, but she shouldn't be gone very long. So she jumps into her vehicle and pulls out onto the street and heads in this direction. Now, what should be no longer than a 1-hour errand has turned into Gayle not showing up back at work. Now, at the time of her disappearance and murder, she had only been married for a couple months. So the boss at the nursing home calls her husband and says, "Hey, is Gayle home?" And he says, "No, why?" And they said, "Well, she left with the bank deposit bag and she hasn't been back to work." So he starts getting very worried. So he calls the Hutchinson Police Department. So they put out an APB for her and her vehicle. Now, later on that day, one of the officers stops by this Dillon's supermarket and notices that the car that he sees in the parking lot right here fits the description. They get to the car, they run the plate, and indeed it is registered to Gayle Sorensen. So the officer goes into the supermarket and he starts looking for Gayle, and she's nowhere to be seen. Now, they start asking the employees and people milling about outside if they had seen anything. So an eyewitness says that he had seen a woman fitting Gayle's description sitting in the driver's side of her car talking to a guy that is described as a white male, late 20s, possibly early 30s, 5'10" to 6 feet tall. He had on a red stocking cap. He had a mustache, a goatee, and he was wearing wire-rimmed glasses with brown lenses. And according to the eyewitness, they would have appeared that they knew each other. She was laughing at something he said. So this isn't a guy that she doesn't know. Maybe she's had a previous run-in with him before in the past. Now, they start asking other people, and that's about the only thing they seen was her in this parking lot talking to this guy. And sadly, her body would be discovered about 3 days later. Gayle's husband at the time was quickly ruled out as to having anything to do with this crime whatsoever, because he was in the service at the time and he was stationed out of town. Now, you fast forward to Sunday, and a farmer east of Hutchinson was doing some work, and he was right off of the US Highway 50, close to the levee that runs alongside of the Arkansas River. And he made a ghastly discovery. He found the body of a young woman. And quickly he called the police, and they came out, and they were quickly able to determine that it was Gayle Sorensen. She had been raped and her throat slashed. Now, the weird thing about the area where her body was found was that she was found in an area that was enclosed by a fence. The owner of the property had enclosed it because in the past he had problems with people riding dirt bikes and ATVs in the area, so he had put in the fence to keep them out. So it was like this guy had access, some kind of access to this fence. And some people in the area do recall the Saturday night before her body was found, they had seen a white car in the area. And of course, she was buried here, and her grave is right in front of you. Almost 50 years this crime has been unsolved. So as I said earlier about that Saturday night when people in the area seen a white car driving around the location where her body was found, that would coincide with the autopsy report saying that at the time Gail's body was discovered, she had been dead for about 12 hours. Now, there's a couple funny, weird facts about this case. So later on, after her murder, somebody had sprayed some graffiti on a wall close to the Cessna plant here in Hutchinson that said, "I killed Gayle Sorensen." Now, probably just some stupid idiot that thinks that this type of subject matter is funny and wants to just annoy and vex people. A few years later, after her murder, a man had called a radio station. I want to say that radio station was local to Topeka. I'm not sure, but it could have been broadcast everywhere. Anyway, so the caller, who had a conversation with the disc jockeys, claimed that he knew exactly who killed Gayle Sorensen, and they had broadcast part of the conversation on the radio. But basically, this guy was saying that you guys are all wrong. The man in the composite drawing, that's not the killer. The killer is a 65-year-old man with white hair. Now, probably yet again another Yahoo who just wants to stir the pot. But that composite sketch looks awfully close in resemblance to this man right here. His name is Anthony Lorette, and Anthony Lorette is basically a serial killer here in the Kansas, Missouri area. It's not exactly sure how many women he's killed. It could be as high as 30. And he was executed in Missouri back in, I think, 1995. So there is a close resemblance to the sketch and this dirtbag. We'll be doing a video about Anthony Lorette in bits and pieces because supposedly he's killed women in Florida, Kansas, South Carolina, Missouri. I mean, we don't really know exactly what he did because he could have been, he could have been pulling a Ted Bundy. He could have just been lying and saying he did this and he did that. So that way, before he gets executed, he can just kind of throw a wrench in whatever investigation any detectives are currently doing. If anybody has any information on the unsolved murder of Gayle Sorensen, contact the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. The number 785-296-8200. 785-296-8200. The cold is creeping in. We're going to Wichita. I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.